Hello, a good day to everyone. I am Sumalata Kilari from Wizlabs team. Welcome to this webinar on ACE, the AWS Certified SysOps Administrator Associate by Mr. Abhishek Maurya. Abhishek is a part of our coveted labs team that is responsible for creating labs for AWS competencies. He is 3x AWS certified. In past, he has worked with a top T1 global IT company as a cloud developer. He regularly speaks at online and offline technology related webinars. Let's welcome him. Over to you, Abhishek.
Thank you, Sumalata. Hello, everyone. My name is Abhishek Maurya, and I'll be the host for this today's webinar. Before we begin the webinar, let me just present the content that we'll be taking today. We'll be taking the type of questions and the knowledge required to pass this exam. We will understand all the 7 domains, and we will try to cover with the sample questions and the services required. I'll share some of the tips for scoring good marks. There's a surprise at the end for everybody, and we do have a quiz. Now, for the quiz winners, for the quiz, we will only consider if your correct answers are present in the chat window. So currently on your screen, there is a Q&A, there is a chat, and there is a raise hand. So I'll just guide you how to use all of these options. For any questions, you can post it in Q&A, that is during the webinar. After the webinar, you can raise your hand and I will unmute you. You can ask the questions with me directly. And while I ask you question, you have to answer only in the chat section. Whoever will answer the answers in the chat section the correct way and the fastest will be the winner. Winner will be given AWS certified SysOps administrator exam course or practice test, depends on the choice. Just a small disclaimer, this webinar is not the preparation for AWS certified SysOps administrator exam. This is just a readiness. I hope you have prepared. In case you are not, I'll guide you how to prepare for the exam, what is the course, how to see what are the important services that you need to prepare, and then you can re-watch this webinar. This is getting recorded live on Zoom. I will share the Zoom recording link in some time. So let's begin. Just to save your bandwidth, I'll be turning my camera off so that you can save the bandwidth. And are we good to go? Can I have something in the chats? Quick, yes. Perfect. Let's begin. So recently, just 3 months before, I gave this exam and I had 873 marks in this SysOps certified administrator exam. So I believe I'm the correct person for this webinar. And this is what you get once you are certified. Perfect. Let's understand what is the recommended knowledge and experience required to pass this exam. Perfect. I can see a lot of interaction in the chats, which is absolutely good. Perfect. Let's begin with this. First is understanding the AWS tenants, architecturing for the cloud. So there is a small prerequisite for this exam. Earlier, AWS recommends that you pass the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate and then begin with this one. But now you can directly give the exam, but you should have a good understanding of AWS architecture, basic services, core ones. You should have a hands-on experience with AWS CLI and SDK tools. There is a requirement for network technologies like VPN, VPC, storage gateway, direct connect. All this you should be in a good position to understand. You should have a hands-on experience on security control and compliance requirement services like CloudWatch, Config, CloudTrail, etc. How AWS works, what is the virtualization technology that you should know. Also, you should know the auditing system, how AWS audits. So maybe it's a CloudWatch log or config or the other way. Then there is a networking concepts required. So just the basic DNS, TCP/IP, firewalls, host protocols, the basic protocols, and you should be in a position to translate the architectural requirement in form of questions or answers. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for congratulations. So we have covered the type of questions. Okay, so these are the 7 domains that will be part of this certification. First is monitoring and reporting, which carries 22 percentage. That is the highest if you see among the all 7 present. Then comes the high availability, where they will be testing your knowledge on how available or elastic your system is. Then comes how you will do the deployment and provision. So this majorly carries about elastic beanstalk, cloud formation, etc., which carries 14 percentage. Then comes storage and data management, where how you will store the file system or object system or database system and other storage services. Then comes security and compliance. Security considers a major portion of this exam. You can see 18 percentage, which is quite good, because that's how administrator needs to know all the in and out of security and compliance. Then comes the networking. So networking will be all over places, and you will find a lot of questions on networking, especially with VPC, security group, subnets, and important concepts. Then comes the optimization and automation, that carries 12 percentage. So I hope this is clear. Recently, AWS has tried to revise this exam, and I have got the new domains. So we will see how the new domains are. So if you see, monitoring, logging, and remediation takes 20 percentage weightage. That means they are now adding remediation also. Then comes reliability and business continuity. Now, as a system administrator, you should make the system more reliable, and it should also follow the continuity of business. Then comes deployment, provisioning, and automation, which carries 18 percentage. After that, security and compliance, definitely. Then comes networking and content delivery. So networking and content delivery carries about CloudFront, VPC, and Route 53 and other services. Then cost and performance is a new service for this new exam. Earlier, cost was not there, and AWS has now introduced cost also. Yes, they are C001 and C01, C02. Perfect. So this is the first domain that we'll be checking on, which involves how you will create metrics and alarms using AWS monitoring services. So AWS monitoring services, you can create under CloudWatch metrics and alarms. Then comes how you will recognize and differentiate the performance and availability metrics. So that is again with CloudWatch metrics. And then the necessary steps to remediate based on performance and availability. So that covers events, logs, and AWS config. CloudWatch has this 5 key features. There are other ones also. Insights, Lambda Insights are something that is new to CloudWatch, but that will not be covered in the exam. This 5 feature covers dashboard, alarms, log, metrics, and events. We are going to see CloudWatch in detail right now, because that covers a major portion of this exam. So as you know, dashboard is something that is a global resource. So even if you create one metric in US East 1 and then one in AP Southeast 1, then it will be visible in all the regions. Then comes alarm. So first we'll understand the CloudWatch on an over level. So CloudWatch tells you to collect, monitor, act, and then analyze. So what you will collect? You will collect the metrics and the logs from AWS services, resources, and applications. Then Using metrics, you can view in a graphical format, that is to monitor your application and infrastructure using CloudWatch dashboards. Then you can act. So with events, responses, you can perform based on that. And then comes to analyze them. So analyzing is an important part. You can see your metrics and you can take your decision, or you can see your logs and decide what to do. So that goes with four resources. You can do application monitoring, you can do system wide visibility, you can do resource optimization, and maintain the overall health of your infrastructure. And these are the four components that we see. A dashboard is always present, but dashboard is not much asked in the exam. So standard, two types of metrics are there. First is standard and custom metrics. Log group, AWS CloudWatch logs contains log group and log stream. There are two components. We will see within a minute in a hands-on. Then comes CloudWatch alarms. So notify when a metric count is available or perform any task based on the events. CloudWatch metrics has different types. So namespace is where you will group the related metrics together. Let's say CPU utilization or any other type of metric that you want to monitor. You can group them together. Then comes the dimension. So dimension is where you will have a name and value pair. Then period, you will specify what this metric is going to collect, and then the metric itself, standard or custom. So we are now going to dig into a little bit of the console and try to understand. So I'll just type here the AWS CloudWatch. If you have any questions, you can post in the Q&A section. And if I ask you question, you should be answering them in the chat section. Okay, so this is the dashboard. For creating a dashboard, you don't need anything. You can just click on the create dashboard and enter the name. So like demo for this session, and it is going to create a dashboard for you. Once you create the dashboard, it will ask you to enter any one of them. So let's say if I have to go with a pie chart which is present, and then I can select whether do I have to go with the metrics to create this widget or to go with the log. So let me just go with the metrics. Then it will ask what is the namespace of the metric. So how they are grouped. They are grouped by services, they are grouped by different components. So maybe I can go with the billing part, and then which service that you want to monitor. So you can go with total charges or by the service. So let me just go with the service, and maybe I can go with the service name as EC2 and the metric name as estimated charges. Once I create the widget, it will be present here. Since there is no data available, this may not show any data right now, but this is a global resource and you can just save the dashboard. There's a new interface that is now present, which will give you even good look of your resources. So this is what dashboard is all about. You can create 50 metrics inside a dashboard. I think that comes under the free tier, but do check about the costing, because since it is a global resource, there's a possibility you may end up paying more. Then comes the CloudWatch alarms. So CloudWatch alarms, we'll be doing one small lab. So this is the labs that we have. Currently, we have 40 labs for AWS SysOps Administrator Associate exam. And we can go with CloudWatch. Yeah. So using this, you can create your CloudWatch resource monitoring alarms and dashboards. What all you have to do is create a EC2 from where you will generate the metrics, get the data, create a SNS topic, and subscribe it to your email, and then select one of the metrics. Like I choose EC2 and CPU utilization. You can select and show them at a place. So that's what all this lab does. But we are going to see another lab on CloudWatch, which is named as CloudWatch Events. So I'll just show you how to create a events in CloudWatch. All you need to do is start an EC2 instance. Now EC2 instance is always required to collect the data. In case of my example, if you see there is no data, that's why this dashboard estimated charges didn't pop up anything. But we can always go here and start an EC2. So for that, let me go to EC2 console. I will open this in a new tab and quickly I can launch an instance. For this demo, I'll be using Amazon Linux 2 AMI with T2.micro architecture instance type, which is free tier eligible. You can also perform along with me in case you want, or you can just watch the video in case there is no access to console to you yet. Then comes the storage, that is by default, and tag you can give any random name. Just make sure to choose name as a key that will show up once you create. And security group, so let me just go with the SSH right now. I believe there is no extra rules required for this. Yes, you can just go with EC2. The key pair name is EC2 server. So maybe I can modify. Okay, and now I can launch. I do have this key pair already present on my desktop, which is demo. Now this is done. We can go and create a SNS topic and subscribe it to our email. SNS topic will help you notify if your CPU utilization goes high or low. So that's how you will be notified how your resources are performing on the cloud. It is not necessary to create a target, but it is good to have one so that you can get the live coverage of your account using email service. So SNS again comes under a free tier. It is one of the always free service category which is present. Perfect. So I can create one SNS and subscribe it to my email. This EC2 is now in running state, which has a name as EC2 server. I can go to SNS and create a SNS topic with standard resolution. Okay, one topic is already present. Perfect. So AWS now has two type of SNS topics. First is first in, first out, FIFO, and standard. Perfect. Just create the topic and create a subscription and subscribe it to email. So I'll just enter the email and this should send a verification email to me. Just on the back end, I will confirm the subscription. So once you confirm the subscription, this is how it will look like. And now if I hit the refresh here, it should show me that your subscription is now confirmed. Yes, subscription is now confirmed. Next task is to subscribe, which is done, and then I can create a CloudWatch alarm. For that, I need to go to Events tab and click on the rules. So go to the Events tab, click on rules and create one. Once you create the rule, you can choose the source pattern EC2 and instance state notification. So service name as EC2, and I want to notify it whenever the state of my instance changes. So here I can choose to have a specific state like terminated, pending, running, stopped, shutting down. I'll just go with any state and for any instance. So this is how the event pattern look like. And what is the target? So for me, target is SNS topic and the name is my server to monitor. I will configure this. Just a name is required for the rule. I can enter demo as of now. and rule is now created. So if I terminate this instance or stop this instance or perform any activity related to state change, it will trigger an email for me. So I have terminated the instance. Let me check my email and show you how does it look like when you have a event triggered. I hope you are able to see the email part. So this is informing me that EC2 instance state change notification. For this instance ID, the state has changed to shutting down. Okay, for this region, for this resource, this is the account number, and this is the source, AWS EC2. Now there is another email popped up for me, which is like this instance is now terminated. So if we see, this is into running state. If I refresh, it is now terminated. So that's how I got two email saying the state of your EC2 has changed. Now one more feature that we do have after starting the lab that you can get. I didn't start the lab because I do have a AWS account already logged in. But once you start the lab, you will be able to validate what you have done, whether have you done it a wrong way or right way. All these things will be a part of the lab. So once you start the lab and click on the validate, since I did not use this VisLabs lab, it will show me all as a failed. But in case you are performing with the VisLabs lab, this will be a success. And this is how the success pattern look like. Your status will be success, EC2 creation will be success, SNS topic creation, CloudWatch event subscription, all this will be success. So for the time being, I will end the lab and will go to the question section. Perfect. So in the alarms, we have three: state, okay, alarm, and insufficient data. And for the log, we have log group, log streams, or you can create alarm based on the log metric filter. Perfect. I have a one sample question. I want you all to be ready and be activated. I hope my team is also ready to monitor the winners. So this is the question. Quickly, you have a limited budget to spend on AWS services each month. If you overspend, the following month budget will be deducted to cover the additional expenses. What should you do to keep the cost in check? Is it billing to terminate or set up a billing alarm, or option A and B both, or you should just set up a billing alarm in config? Perfect. So what this question is all about? This is about a budget and keeping your cost in check. So the first question itself is not required. Oh, there's a response change. Okay, I believe, oh, there is some problem with the responses. Okay, so billing to terminate is not required, and you cannot do even in CloudTrail. Even the first option was you cannot do in config. So the ultimate correct option is CloudWatch. Okay, perfect. I can see a lot of good answers. Thank you so much. Okay, we are now going to see a different topic before I move on. So let's understand CloudTrail for now. For those who are answering it in the Q&A, your responses will not be recorded. Uh, Please answer in the chat section. my team is monitoring in the chat section. Thank you. Okay, let's understand CloudTrail. We just saw all the features of CloudWatch. Let's see the CloudTrail. So CloudTrail, first, it captures all the activities, whatever you are doing. So let's say if I create S3 bucket, it is going to create a record, capture the record saying S3 bucket is created. Then it stores that. So whatever the logs that are getting generated, we need to store it somewhere. So for that, the option is Amazon S3 bucket, or you can always store in CloudWatch logs. And then depending on the logs that you have got in your S3 bucket or CloudWatch logs, you can take any action. So maybe you want to perform a event, whenever a log of S3 create bucket is happening, send an email to the admin saying a bucket is created. And then you can review all the logs or analyze them using Athena. So how CloudTrail helps? It helps in compliance auditing. It helps in operational troubleshooting. It helps you in security analysis of your account, resources, or applications. It also helps in automatic compliance remediation of your resources. Key features is event history for AWS account is available for free of cost, but they only be present for last 90 days of the events. You can store the event history in S3 bucket using Trail. So if you go to the Cloud Trail page, there you can create a trail. So use creating a trail, you can store all the API related activity into the S3 bucket or CloudWatch log group. So you can create a trail or you can specify the bucket to store. So I'll just take this bucket name and create a trail named demo. And I can optionally perform the encryption on the log, or I can do log file validation. Now this log file validation, if you read about this actually helps you to digest the log, digest the files to verify that has they changed in between. So if you are worried that though I'm storing the logs in S3 bucket or CloudWatch logs option, do you have a problem with your team saying someone may modify, you can use log validation to detect, monitor, and understand has someone modified it or not. You can also do SNS notification. So just like I had a already SNS subscribed, so I can use that, or you can do CloudWatch logs to store them. Once it is done, you can review what type of events that you want to store. Maybe it is a management event, data event, or inside events. And the API related activity could be read or write. Once you click on next, you can create a trail. So creating a trail is a different thing, but you can just monitor the activities that I did will now be part of my event history. So this is a root account that I'm using. So recently I subscribed to an event. I created a topic. I have also ran the instances, authorized a security ingress room. I created a security group. I put a dashboard, and before that I logged in. So all the API related activity, all the account related activity are now showing in the event history. You can download this or you can create a Athena table depending on your use case. Let's take one quick question on CloudTrail. If I have, yes. So now we just discussed that there is a company there and there are a couple of resources present. There's a IT audit going on and they want to monitor all the log files. So for this, the obvious answer will be CloudTrail. Okay, this is not a part of the quiz, but you can definitely answer in the chat section and let me know the answers. Okay, for all the quiz questions, I'll be announcing it beforehand. So CloudTrail is the right answer. Okay, let's move to the second domain. But before that, let me just take one or two questions from the Q&A section. I can see some good questions out there. Just give me a minute. Okay. One question is difference between CloudTrail and CloudWatch. Okay, so we just saw both the services. CloudTrail does their they perform event history. They store the event history. They store the API logs. Whether in CloudWatch, it is completely different. It has dashboard, event, logs, alarms, and metrics as a key feature. Okay, I hope Yash has you got the answer. The other question is, can't we use CloudWatch one step stop monitoring tool? Why other monitoring tool, Pythamus or Nagios? What is the difference? Ignore my question is not related. Okay, so your question is actually correct, but the problem is with integration. If your application is not supporting AWS thing, or if your resources are not deployed on then you cannot use CloudWatch. CloudWatch is made for the resources that are created or having CloudWatch agent installed. Okay, so that's why companies use Nagios or Datadog like monitoring tool. If their resources are created on any other cloud platform like Azure, Google Cloud, then they will be using Nagios or Datadog. Thank you for asking that question. Okay, the next question is, can we trigger an alarm based on CloudTrail event? Yes, you can. Let's say you want to monitor all the S3 buckets of your account, and suddenly you come to know that someone has tried to delete a bucket. You can create an alarm on your CloudTrail event saying this bucket should not be deleted, and you should be notified with the person who is trying to delete. So definitely you can create a trigger on alarm based on your CloudWatch events. Thank you for asking that question, Ram. Okay. Which one did you take? Oh, I took the both ones. So the second exam, SOA C02 with the hands-on lab, I took it just 4 days back. And the first one that I took in October. So I have taken both the exams. The new exams has lab items where they will be giving you the steps like what we saw in the labs, and yeah, one of the lab will be there for you, and you need to solve them, provide the answer and give them the resources, and the domains are now changed that we discussed. In case you need to go through the domains, new domains, you can go AWS certification coming soon page and check the new domains. Thank you for asking this question. Yes, this meeting will be recorded, and it is also getting recorded on YouTube. So let me just share the YouTube recording link in case someone has missed it. This is getting recorded live on YouTube. So I'm just giving you the link soon page, and here in the chat window that you all can save it. In case you have missed the webinar, the starting part, you can later on watch the recording immediately. Perfect. Let me now go with the second domain, and then we will take up the questions. You are always free to post your questions only in the Q&A section. For now, I will not be looking at the chat. My team is looking at the chat whenever I ask a question. Perfect. So the second domain is about high availability. Okay, where you will implement scalability and elasticity based on your use case. So the services for that are Route 53 and CloudFront. There are other ones also, we will see quickly. Then comes EC2 auto scaling and elastic load balancer. So these are the two major services, but definitely AWS tried to uh, ask new questions based on your scalability or elasticity. So let's understand Route 53. So I hope you are all are aware about Route 53. In case you are not, we will quickly walk through them. So Route 53 does one simple thing. If you have a EC2 which has a public IP and you want to go with zoommeeting.com, you can host it immediately using a hosted zone. In case you want to buy a domain, Route 53 also works as a domain registrar where you can buy .com, .org or any other type of domain. It performs a health check. So in case your EC2 instance is not healthy or your load balancer is not giving the healthy responses, it will not going to send the resources to unhealthy resources. There are the 6 routing policy. We do have a question on routing policy. So put your attention here for a while. First is simple routing policy. So as the name goes, you can create your A record or the records type are present here. There are 4 most common record types. First is A record, where you will be mapping your host name to any IPv4. Then comes 4 times A, where you will be mapping your host name to any IPv6 resource. For CNAME, we have host name to host name, and alias, you can do host name to AWS resources. Then comes weighted routing policy. In case you have a use case where you want to test your QA environment, you can send 5% of your live traffic to the QA environment, and the rest of will be on production. Once it is tested, you can deploy, promote the QA, and you can route your all the traffic to the new place. Then comes the latency routing policy. So latency routing policy does a very good thing. It redirects the events, redirects the resources of the users based on the fastest approachable resource present on AWS. So the example is like if you are creating 2 EC2 instances, one in Northern Virginia and second is Ohio, and your Ohio one is doing very well, then your users will be going to Ohio first because they are the fastest reachable. Then comes the fastest failover routing policy. So failover routing policy is required in case your Ohio ones goes down. You can redirect your users immediately to Northern Virginia resources. Then comes geolocation routing policy. So geolocation routing policy is actually for a compliance purpose. So let's say you want to route your all the India users to India uh, instances or the instances hosted in Mumbai region. So you can do that with geolocation. And then comes multi-value, which performs health check and also checks for the other parameters that you specify. So hosted zone is a place where you can have a non-AWS purchased domain, like you purchased a domain from GoDaddy or Namecheap or BigRock, that you can add it as a hosted zone with your NS record, name server record, or SOA, start of authority record, and you can use Cloud 53 features. We'll now see CloudFront. So I hope you all are aware with the CloudFront. So if you see the what is CloudFront, CloudFront is content delivery network. It performs read performance. It improves the read performance where your content is cached at the edge. It also does DDoS protection, distributed denial of services protection. It is integrated with AWS Shield and AWS Web Application Firewall. It can expose your exposed to external HTTPS, that is secure traffic, and can talk to your internal HTTPS backends. There are 2 types of origin that you can have. First is S3 bucket, which also can be customized using CloudFront OAI. OAI is Origin Access Identity. In case you don't want to make your bucket public and still be accessible with the CloudFront URL, you can do that with CloudFront OAI. Or there can be a custom origin added, or probably a load balancer or an EC2 instance or if you are already has enabled S3 bucket website, static website with S3 bucket, that can be done, or any HTTP, which is non-secure backend that you want to map to your CloudFront. So if you see CloudFront, how it caches your responses, the end user will be requesting the cache, and since it does not has the data, it will go to the origin server. Let's say if your resources are hosted in Northern Virginia or Ohio, it is going to request from there, and it will get the response closest to your edge location. So edge location is where your data is cached, and then the user will be accessing. In case the second user goes, the response will not be going to origin server because it is already present with edge location, and your users can directly view the responses. So it is a fast, it provides faster, it improves your read performance, faster read performance based on your caching. Now, you can also integrate with Lambda at Edge. We covered this in the last webinar of ours, where we discussed about Lambda at Edge. So in case you want to perform like thumbnail creation or authentication at the nearest of your user, you can do that. CloudFront will be sitting at your edge location, where the origin will be your S3 bucket. In this case, we are just doing an image creation workflow. So you can do that and integrate your Lambda at Edge feature using CloudFront. Now, CloudFront also has a geo restriction. So in case you want to restrict your users only to a specific country, or you can blacklist, you want to blacklist any country or which where you don't want the traffic to come in, you can do that using geo restriction. Also, you can this country is determined using a third-party geo IP database, where the use case is copyright laws to your content access control. You can control the access to your content. Okay. There are three type of load balancer, but if you now visit to AWS console, you might see four. Okay. So we'll be discussing all three here, and the newest one, which is gateway load balancer. So let's discuss the first one, which is classic load balancer. So classic load balancer is an old generation load balancer which was created in 2009, and it supports three type of traffic. First is HTTP, second HTTPS, and then TCP. Now, if you know, inside when you create a TCP traffic, a TCP protocol, this TCP is always embedded inside the HTTP and HTTPS. Okay. Now, second is application load balancer. So application load balancer is one of the best load balancers out there because it performs multiple listeners. You can add multiple listeners, multiple target groups. You can add a path-based routing or query string-based routing is also supported in application load balancer, and it does supports three type of traffic, which is HTTP, HTTPS, and WebSocket. Then comes the network load balancer. Network load balancer is used at a place where you need a very high latency or a lot of users are present, and you want to do TCP, TLS, or UDP traffic, you can use. It is the newest one. But let's see the new one, which is recently came to console. If I go to the load balancer and click on create load balancer, you can now see a gateway load balancer is also present. So what this gateway load balancer does is it has your IP. So if you see the difference here on the creation screen, it is HTTP, HTTPS. Network load balancer is TCP, TLS, and UDP. But your gateway load balancer only works with the IPs. Okay. So for IP, you can browse one from Elastic IP, AWS Elastic IP, or you can use your on-premise network IP, Internet Protocol. Okay. And this is the previous generation classic load balancer. I hope the load balancer thing is clear for which case use case you want which one. In case you need more, you can click on the learn more option, and it will redirect you to the documentation. Okay. Now we are going to create an application load balancer with auto scaling group. This is a very good lab. Let's go. And this time I'll be using the Vizlabs account with the start lab and execute this. So we can see the task here is to create a template, launch template with Amazon Linux to AMI and create instances with T2.micro. And after that, we need to create a auto scaling group with that launch template. And then we can test the auto scaling group by terminating one of the manually instances. So if I click on the open console, this is going to give me an error because my AWS account is already logged in, which is one of the most queries that we receive, most feedback that we receive. So I can directly log out the previous account and then come to this page again and click on the open console button again. In case you are getting this error, make sure to log your previous account out and then only start the lab. So if I see the task for me, first is to create a security group for the load balancer, then create a security group for the launch template and create a key pair. So there is a difference why we are creating a load balancer security group and creating a separate security group for launch template. The reason is actually very simple. We want the load balancer to be the internet facing, and the instances which is getting launched with auto scaling group should not be internet facing. They are private, and the traffic that is coming to these instances will be only coming from the public load balancer. Okay, so for that, first I need to create a security group. So for creation of the security group, I can go to EC2 and click on the create security group quickly. Okay, create security group, or you can enter the same as a description. And if you see the inbound traffic, since this is the internet facing, I can give this 0000 as a internet traffic for the HTTPS protocol. Okay, so yeah, HTTP, okay, HTTP protocol I can give with the source as CIDR block of 0000. 0 means internet. And if you know, your security groups are stateful in nature. Okay, that means whatever the traffic is going out will also be going in. So this security group is created for the load balancer. Now I can create another security group for the launch template. So if you see the magic of this another security group, the inbound traffic, okay, specifically I'm talking about the inbound traffic is two-way traffic. Okay, so first is SSH. You can SSH from anywhere, or you can restrict your environment to only SSH from my IP. In case I want to do, I can do this my IP. For this lab, I will just use the internet. I can SSH from anywhere. But if you see the second record here, it says use HTTP and select the load balancer. Okay, so I'll just use HTTP here and select the load balancer as my security group. Okay, so now whatever the HTTP traffic will only come from this security group. I can now create the security group, and the next is to create a key pair that is required for creating the launch template. So key pair is present here. You can use this name, Vizlabs key pair, and create, which will be unique. I can create this, and there will be a save option coming up for me, and I can maybe randomly save at any place inside my computer. Okay, the next task is create a launch template. So for that, copy the launch template name and click on launch templates present here and click on the launch template. Since I don't have any, I got the welcome page. Otherwise, I would have gone the front page. Now for the AMI, we can choose Amazon Linux 2. For the instance type, we can choose the free tier one, T2.micro. For key pair, we just created one with key pair. And security group, I can use the existing security group, and this time I'm going to use the launch template security group. Okay, storage is default, and let other options be default. You can specify the security group. So it is using the same launch template security group, which is selected already. Okay. So if I click on create, this is now created. I'll be creating a auto scaling group based on this launch template. There is a launch configuration also present, which will be deprecated very, very soon. The reason for not using launch configuration is if your resources needs to be uploaded, let's say if your launch template needs to be updated, then you need to create a separate launch configuration wherein in launch template you can have multiple versions and you can specify the default version and use. So this is the default settings. I'll click on next and I'll be present with the launch template setting, or I can just change the purchase options. Maybe I can use spot instances, and for the subnet I can use any of them and click on next. So I hope I am following the steps correctly. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So here, okay, I didn't create a load balancer. Okay, let me create a load balancer first. So you can go to your load balancer page and create one quickly. So this for this lab we'll be using application load balancer. Or in case at any point you feel whatever you are creating is now visible or not, you can click on a processing button and this will show. I have only created a launch template which is showing. Let me just create the other resources so that I can see more details out there. So application load balancer with name demo just, and availability zone. We have to make sure that we are selecting the availability zones same as our auto scaling. Otherwise the options will not be present, and here we can select the load balancer security group, and routing policy just give any random name, maybe XYZ for the target group, and the default health check is present. Since there is no instances as of now, it will not show up, but if I refresh here, it should have the target group, and I can remove this and put this as a 60 seconds and increase the maximum capacity to 4 just to scale in, and skip the notification. I can add the tags for my instances and click on the next. You can create the auto scaling. So if you see the desired count was 1, so that means one EC2 instance should always be up and running. Okay, I can now validate. If I validate, it will show most of the options as corrected and done. Okay, so if you see, it is still failing because I didn't use the script. Also the load balancer DNS is not yet up, so load balancer is still getting up. It will take some time for it to provision. You can see it is in provisioning state. You can always verify what all the checks that you are not passing up. There are details also for you to come up here. So let me just refresh this, and once this is ready, so I know I have not pasted the scripts, so this will not pass completely for me. Okay, let it be in provision state. I hope you got the concept how to create a load balancer, create a auto scaling group with that, and most of the checks will be passing. You can see success here. Just success is not present here because I didn't do those steps. Okay, let me end the lab and continue with the session. Once I end the lab, I can also make sure to sign out from here. I can delete the resources manually in case I want to, or you can just close it completely. Okay. Closing this will require some time. Till the time I can take up some answers from the chat window. Okay, can we trigger an alarm based on CloudWatch event? Yes, you can trigger an alarm based on the event. So CloudWatch events are always integrated with alarm. You can specify which metric and which portion of the metric, and then you will get the alarm. Okay. Does CloudFront handle DDoS without additional services? Yes, it handles. The reason for handling that is it is inbuilt with DDoS protection. So if you go to the CloudFront page, which is aws.amazon.com/CloudFront, it does DDoS attack protection without the use of any additional service. So here you can see security at the edge, which says the option that CloudFront is a highly secure CDN and it does a lot of things, including your DDoS attack for your websites and applications, or applications with AWS Shield standard. Okay, thank you for asking that question. Okay, is there a possibility for an edge location to go down? Can the or NLB be used with CloudFront? Okay, so definitely, we cannot rely on the AWS infrastructure. AWS always recommends creating resources in multiple availability zones or multiple regions based on your DS, disaster recovery plan, your architecture. Is there a possibility for an edge location to go down? Okay, edge location can also go down if the entire region outage or entire multiple availability outage is there. And can the GLB or NLB be used with CloudFront? Okay, so as of now, CloudFront, I believe, does not support GLB or NLB because the custom, uh, okay, it is, I think, supporting now. CloudFront works with Elastic Load Balancer. So Elastic Load Balancer comes up with all type of load balancer inside it. So I think it can be used. Ram. Okay, all the questions are answered now. I will proceed with the section. Okay, let's answer this. This is a part of the quiz. Panel moderators be active. So here, a leading US-based online news network is planning to expand their reach for paid service in Europe, Asia, and Oceania regions. You are instructed for multi-region AWS deployment for minimizing the response time of its subscribers. Which one you will use? Okay, someone is going with failover. Failover is not possible. Weighted is also wrong. Geolocation is also not required in this case because you want the fastest response time. Thank you so much for participating in this quiz. The correct answer is latency based routing. So if someone is answering wrong, their responses will not be recorded. Perfect. This is also part of the quiz. Panel moderators, be ready till the audience read the questions. So the company has an application that is hosted on a fleet of EC2 with ALB that evenly distributes the incoming traffic. Once there was an incident when junior DevOps engineer, someone like recently joined, has made changes in the application load balancer that brought the whole production system down. Now, this situation should not happen again, and hence you want to monitor any activity or changes to your AWS resources. Please read this line carefully. Which of the following service does not help? Okay, it is not asking for which is going to help. I can see all the correct options, but which of the following service will not help? So here that is the key point. Okay, which is not going to help you. Okay, so CloudWatch metrics is going to help me monitor the resources or the activity. ELB API calls with CloudTrail is definitely going to help me. ELB access log, which generates the logs and stores in S3, is also going to help with that. Okay, so the correct option is ELB health check. I believe most of you has got wrong that I can see out there, but many of you has got right. No problem. There is always a next chance, another chance. Perfect. We'll now go to deployment and provisioning. Let me just see if there is any question for me. Okay, there is no question as of now, so I'll just quickly go with the domains. I'm running little short of time. There are 5 more domains and only 30 minutes for me. I'll try to be on time. Let's see. You can always put your questions in the Q&A, and if I ask you the question, make sure to answer only in the chat section. Perfect. Domain 3 is called as deployment and provisioning. So if you see, it is divided into 2 subsections. First is identify and execute steps required to provision the resources. And second is translate your functional requirement into application design. So I believe this was the services being used. I could be wrong. Let's see the CloudFormation. So in case you don't know about CloudFormation is one of the infrastructure as a service model of cloud, where you can create your whole infrastructure with small code. Okay, this code can be written in JSON or YAML. JSON is scripting language, that is declarative language, and YAML is again yet another markup language. So you can create a template or you can save it in your S3 bucket. Based on that, you can create a stack which constructs and configures your stack resources. Okay. So in case you want to update, there is something called as change set, which you can view before updating your stack, and it performs the same way how you create, that's how you update. Okay. There are 4 types of EBS volumes. First is general purpose SSD, then comes the provisioned IOPS, third is throughput optimized, and fourth one is cold SSD. The only thing to monitor here is the speed, which can be done using the GBs that you provision or the throughput that you get. If you see the IOPS, general purpose had 10,000 minimum as a maximum, and it has 20,000 or 32,000. Hello everyone, I'm back. I'm really sorry for this one. Okay, the first 2 SSD types can be used as a root volume, and the second 2 can be used as your databases for your EC2 instances. Okay, so if you have a frequently accessed data workload, then you can use throughput optimized, or if you have a cold HDD, if you have a less frequent access, then you can use cold HDD. Cold HDD is one of the cheapest one out there amongst the 4, but it also has to provision at least 500 GB volumes, and you can go up to 16 TB of volumes. Let's understand EFS. So EFX is a multi-AZ file system by default, where you will have NFS clients installed that will go with the subnets and the network interfaces. You can see the EC2 instances are present in different availability zones, but they can be a part of only one EFS volume. In case of EBS, it is AZ controlled system. Okay, perfect. This question is part of quiz. Panel moderators, please be ready. Let's read this question together and try to answer this one. database engineer has got a task to allocate the necessary storage for their newly provisioned EC2 servers on various regions. Each independent server is expected to handle business operation that has a large database workloads for separate application. They also need to allocate a secure and separate storage to keep the backup scripts and log files. Okay. So which two option you need to select two options are out here. Okay. Which two option you feel that will be the most cost effective storage type. Okay. Cost effective storage type. Uh, Please answer two. Okay. I'll wait for some more time for others to answer. Perfect. Let's see the answers. Okay, so instance volume type cannot be used as database because once your instances are terminated, your data will be deleted. EFS cannot be used because it is across various regions. Okay. Then next is throughput optimized. It is not the cheapest one. The cheapest one we just saw was cold one. Okay, so the correct option here is provisioned IOPS for volume as a database and cold volume, EBS cold volume for backup scripts and log files. Perfect. So as you guessed it, the answer is KMS because there is the place where you can do audit of your resources and keys. Okay, let's understand the RPO and RTO. This is related to disaster recovery, where your RPO refers to the data loss and the RTO refers to downtime. Okay, can I have the full form of RPO and RTO in the chat quickly? Okay, domain 5 is about security and compliance. Here we'll be seeing the most part of IAM, the roles and responsibility of shared responsibility model. Okay. So yeah, I think we discussed this in the last webinar, where if you have a IAM user, you will be using IAM policy. But if you have a application, you will be using IAM role. Okay. So the credentials types are four types. First is email ID and password. Second is IAM username and password. Third is access keys. And fourth is MFA. Okay, multi-factor authentication. Now to protect your workloads and accounts, you can use AWS Guard Duty. Guard Duty does suspicious activity and generates the finding. It also adds your trusted IPs and threat list. Okay, so you can enable your guard duty and you can store your logs in CloudTrail events or using VPC flow log or DNS query log, which will detect the threats and give you the actions to modify. Then comes the federation using custom identity broker. So here you have a place where perfect. So what do you think? Or is geolocation routing policy is required? Because I need to promote the previous infrastructure. This is the last question. I'm just repeating one more time. Perfect. So geolocation routing policy is not possible. Neither the simple routing policy with two records are possible. And latency is also not possible because you have to make the newer version live. Okay. So the only possible is routed waiting policy. Okay. But before that, let's understand the VPC part. So VPC has a lot of components. I have tried to get a diagram where all of them can be listed. And here you can see all of the resources are listed. The VPC peering is used for peer peering two or more VPCs. Then comes the NAT gateway, which is deployed in public subnet, and you can use it for the internet traffic. Then comes the security group, which is bounded at an instance level, and it can be a part of your public subnet or private subnet. Internet gateway is used to give the traffic to the internet that is deployed via route table. Then comes the VPC flow log, which will monitor all the logs and it will give you the traffic, store the traffic in CloudWatch logs or your S3 bucket. VPC endpoint is used to give access to your resources privately. You will not leave the Amazon network in that case. A VPN gateway is used to communicate with your corporate data center via site-to-site VPN, where you will have customer gateway on the customer side, or you will have a VPN gateway on the EC2 side. If you have any query related to this diagram or any component of this diagram, please post in the Q&A section. I will take up at the end of the session. I'm running really late out of time. And this is the layered network for the VPC. So we have a VPC route table, which is at the top level present. If you want to deny the traffic, you can remove it from the route table. Then comes this subnet, which also does an inbound and outbound traffic deny and accept rule. Then comes the EC2 or ANI level security group, which will also have a route for inbound and outbound. Then comes the third party or host based protection, where you can secure your servers. Okay, we saw this question. Let's move forward to the last domain, which is automation and optimization. So we have AWS services and features to manage and assess the resource utilization, employ the cost optimization strategies, and automate the manual or repeatable process. Okay, so here you can use for resource utilization and assessment, you can use CloudWatch or Access Advisor. For cost optimization, it is recommended to use CloudWatch, Trusted Advisor, AWS Lambda, or Cost Explorer. For automation, there are four categories. The first one is general, performance, provisioning and deployment, and last is operations. So generally, you can use CloudWatch event or CloudWatch alarm. Then comes for performance, you can use auto scaling. For provisioning and deploying, you can use CloudFormation, Offwork, or AMIs. And then for operations, you can use System Manager, Lambda, or Step Functions. Okay, so Trusted Advisor does this 5 things. It will tell you about your cost optimization, performance, security, fault tolerance, and service limit. Okay, this is the last question and it is not part of the quiz. Let's take up this and call it a day for the webinar. So you have a company that owns several consulting firm and has individual AWS accounts. They have AWS system administrator and you are responsible for setting up the infrastructure. Ensure that you are able to do centrally manage policies and billing for your AWS accounts. Okay, so how is that possible? Using consolidated billing, or should you have a IAM policy on each account, or should you set up a IAM group for the users, or use AWS organization? Perfect. So consolidated billing is not possible. Using a separate IAM policy on each account would cost a lot of efforts and time. Then comes the IAM group. So using that, it is not possible. It is only possible with AWS organization. So we have covered the 7 domains. We are now going to see the important services for this. So these are the list of services. We have covered the most of them. I didn't go through the RDS and Elastic Cache. And apart from that, I didn't go through Cognito. But we have seen the other ones. Okay. I have highlighted the few one where most of the question comes up. I'll give you 10 seconds for taking a screenshot, or if you want to take a picture of the services, which will be asked in the AWS Certified SysOps Administrator exam. Okay, please take a screenshot or take a snapshot, whatever you need for your reference. Okay, this is personally based on my recommendation after giving this exam twice, first the beta exam and then the main exam. Okay, now we are going to see some of the tips. So how to prepare for the AWS certification. uh, the most important part is hands-on experience. Okay, so we do have a dedicated labs, around 40 labs for sysops dedicated. Then comes the online course, WizLabs online course, and WizLabs practice test. Okay, so the quiz winners will be getting either online course or practice test. Okay, and you might have a question how to access the labs. So if you are purchasing any course or purchasing any practice test related to AWS, you will get hands-on experience for free. Okay, there is no additional charges. And there are some free resources also, which is AWS white paper that you can skim through, or AWS service level FAQs, or the official documentations of particular service. Okay, and then learn this test taking strategy. So use the elimination process like you just did for every question that I showed you. Read the question type, make sure not to miss any keywords. Use the mark for review feature, which will help you for your further process, and in case it needs more time, you can use the other questions to answer the previous question. You can deep dive on specific services and first build a plan with goals. Okay. So my tricks is eliminate any option that has third party tools or technology mentioned, because AWS just promotes their products, their services, and their operations and infrastructures. Okay. So attempt the easy ones first. If you have doubt, do mark as read, mark as review, and come back within 5 minutes. Since all the questions are scenario based, try to make a diagram on paper. They are now giving a whiteboard for the SysOps data exam that you can use to draw a little simple diagram. Read FAQs a lot. FAQs has everything that you need for the service, and then you can watch a random video on YouTube to understand more about the service. Let's say you want to know about how VPC flow log works. Okay, you just go to YouTube and type the VPC flow log. It will give you tens of responses, hundreds of responses, which will help you understand. Okay, and there are services where no hands-on is possible, like AWS organization. You can create if you have multiple AWS account, but in case you don't have, you can watch the videos and then connect with people, ask their experience about exam center only for the first exam. In case you have already given the certification, no need to ask about how the exam center was. Now you can take the exams online, so that point is not considerable. I have covered all the things. Thank you so much for your time, and I really forgive me for the option that I had the delay. Now I'm going to take a quiz, but before that, we do have a surprise for all of you. Please don't leave. I'll be taking the Q&A and I'll give you the chances to unmute yourself now and speak up. Okay. So can I have the surprises for them quickly?
Okay, here I come with the most exciting element of this webinar, and here we go. Abhishek, will you please allow the screen sharing?
Yeah, you are allowed. Thank you.
Okay, okay. And here we go. Over to you, Abhishek.
Okay. In case you like the WizLabs goals or you want to get through the hands-on, you can use this 60% exclusive discount coupon for the webinar users. It is valid till 14th March. We have almost a week time. In case you want the access to whole WizLabs content and courses, there is a 30% discount. We have 1 year and 5 year subscription based model where you can get the access to whole WizLabs content. Okay. In case you have any question, You can take the screenshot of these coupons, discount coupons. That will help you. Sure. So, okay, now I'm going to take up the questions. I can see, let this be sharing. Sumalata, don't change. Okay. Let me answer the questions. Okay. What is the difference and when to use IAM policy and IAM role? This is actually a very nice question. IAM policy is always required for IAM user or IAM role. IAM policy is where you are saying go and get the read only access of S3 or get the S3 full access. Okay. So IAM role is required when you are creating a Lambda function or when you are creating a EC2 instance where it needs to perform several tasks. Okay. So there you need IAM role. Okay. Thank you for asking that question. Okay. Perfect. Sanjeev already has a membership. That is very good. I hope you are enjoying the Vizlabs content. Okay. One person has raised the hand. Anna Adop. If you have any question, you can directly raise your hand. I'll be answering it live here. Please don't post in the chat window. Use the Q&A option. Or you can raise your hand. I will unmute you and you can interact with me and ask your questions. There's a raise hand button on your screen. Please use that option to ask the question. Okay, if you don't have any question, then let me ask some of the questions to you. Okay, and you can raise your hand to answer the question. Okay, so you can now answer what is the difference between CloudTrail and CloudWatch. Okay, uh, would someone like to answer this on a live and let the audience know? You can raise your hand and answer this question. The question is, what is the difference between CloudWatch and CloudTrail? To answer this question, you can raise your hand. I will unmute you and you can answer the question. This is the discount coupon that you can see on the screen. Vishal, would you like to answer it live? Okay, I can see few name. Andres. Okay, I'm unmuting you. Please unmute yourself and answer.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good
Uh,
evening.
Please be louder, bit louder if possible.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I think that the main difference between CloudWatch and CloudTrail is you can use CloudTrail to track changes in in your infrastructure with collecting some logs, and CloudWatch it's more like a monitoring um, application that you could use to activate some uh, things like the use of the CPU or memory, something like that, and use this information to start maybe a Lambda function or something like that. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that's
perfect.
the main difference.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the answer. Okay. Uh, if you have any questions, you can post in the Q&A. Okay, if you want to delete an alarm on CloudWatch created by CloudFormation, okay, there is a retention policy that you can use to delete any resources created by CloudFormation. The best example is like EBS volume when you create a EC2 instance. In case you want to retain the EBS volume created by EC2, created with EC2 and created by CloudFormation, you can do that. Okay, so in CloudFormation you have a option to retain the policies and don't delete the other stuff. Okay, thank you for asking that question. Okay, I'm now stopping the live stream, but also in case has someone missed the online session, can go through this recording and watch. Okay, Frank has a question for me. His question is, okay, before I take the Frank question, I would like you all to answer a poll, just giving me the feedback. How was this webinar? Okay, this poll is now launched. Please answer. On your screen, you will get a pop-up and you can choose your responses and rate the webinar. Frank, your question is next. Would you like to have a chat with me, Frank? I will unmute you. Perfect. We have received your responses. 23 people out of 43 has voted. I'm still waiting for the other ones. Yes, you can use this YouTube video link where the recording of today's session is present. Hello, Frank.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you, Abhishek. Yep.
Hi, how are you? I hope you are doing
Yep.
well.
Yep, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Okay, so let's take your question. So you are currently preparing for solution architect, which exam? Associate or professional level?
Associate.
Associate.
Yeah.
Okay. And it is scheduled in next week.
Yes, that's the plan actually. Yep.
Okay. And you are asking, should I do AWS certified developer next or sysops? Okay.
Yes.
So let's say if in case you want to do all the AWS certifications, I would say go
Mm-hmm.
with sysops first, because you only need to
Mm-hmm.
learn 3-4 more services. If you consider the syllabus of
Okay.
developer, you will need to learn 7 to 8 new services which are not in detail part of solution architect, which you are currently preparing for. Okay, so my
Mm-hmm.
advice, like I also has done sysops first
Mm-hmm.
before going for developer, because their syllabus is quite matching. You only need to
Mm-hmm.
change your mindset for answering the question. Like you need to
Mm-hmm.
think it the other way, how the admin will think, rather than a system or solution architect.
Mm-hmm. I get your point.
Yeah, thank you,
Yep.
thank you.
So in terms of preparation, the WISLab course and the labs and the questions are enough, or do we need any extra preparation going into the exam?
Okay. This is actually a good question. So it depends on like from how long you are using AWS. Okay. If you are new to AWS, then you may need to go through some other courses or other videos. But in case you are prepared, like you are working on AWS, you are using it for your day-to-day work, and you are
Yep.
able to perform almost all of the labs that are given for the learning path, then it would be enough from my side. Okay,
I
but
see.
in case you are new and want to try out the other courses, you can definitely try out them.
Right. Cool. Thank you. Thank you.
for. Okay, I can see one more hand raised. Andres, I have given you permission to talk. In case you have missed the session recording, I'm again posting the links in the chat. You can save this and watch in your free time. Andres, I have unmuted you so you can talk. Or if someone having any question, I can raise hand and I will give you the permission to talk. Thank you very much. Okay, I can see one more person has raised the hand. Okay, I'll be there for next 5 minutes in case if you have any questions. Rafael, you have any question for me? You can raise your hand. Okay, who are the quiz winners? Quiz winners will be announced very shortly on the social media. Uh, Please be in touch with our LinkedIn, WizLabs LinkedIn page. And I really appreciate your time for being there. Thank you so much for your time. And please forgive me for the time that I have taken extra. Yes, Rafael, this session is over. I'm calling out for the day. But since you have missed it, uh, you can watch the YouTube video. The streaming link is given in the chats. I'm giving the chat link. In case you have missed it, you can watch. Okay. And to all the people who have participated and waiting for the panel result, we'll be sharing very soon on the social media. Please be in touch with our LinkedIn page. In case you have not followed the page, liked the page, do so for getting the responses quickly. Yes, Rafael, we can have a chat. Please unmute yourself. Thank you so much, everyone. Webinar is officially over. In case you have any questions, you can ask me on live.